What you're about to watch is a true story, an event that really happened to real people. This true crime account may be disturbing to both viewers and listeners. Thus, discretion is strongly advised.
It was a warm summer evening in Wayland, Massachusetts, one of those quiet nights where the world feels almost at peace. The sky was beginning to fade, streaks of gold and orange melting into purple shadows as the day gave way to dusk. Lauren Astley was driving, her red Jeep cruising through the familiar streets of the small town she had known all her life. She had sent a single text message, just one word. So simple, so innocuous. Here. That message arrived on Nathaniel Fujita's phone at exactly 7:05 p.m. It was short, unremarkable. But those 4 letters were the last words Lauren Astley would ever send. By sunrise, her father would be searching for her, desperately, frantically, calling her name into the night air by the edge of a silent, empty beach. And within hours, a grim discovery would shake an entire community to its core. A beautiful, talented young woman, her whole life ahead of her, gone. Lauren was the kind of girl people noticed, not because she demanded attention, but because she naturally drew it. Standing only 5 feet tall, she was described by her friends as small but mighty. She had an energy about her, a light that made her seem larger than life. She was bubbly, outgoing, and had a voice that could stop people in their tracks. Singing was her passion. On stage, she shined. Whether performing with her a cappella group, the Muses, or taking the lead in her high school's theater productions, Lauren always seemed at home in the spotlight. But Lauren wasn't just a performer. She was a giver. Even as a child, she had a deep empathy for others. When she was only 12 years old, she traveled with her church to New Orleans to help in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. At an age when most kids were thinking about friends, school, or the next big game, Lauren was already showing the world the size of her heart. Her parents, Mary Dunn and Malcolm Astley, raised her to believe in kindness, compassion, and standing up for what was right. And though her parents had divorced when Lauren was young, they both remained constants in her life. Devoted, loving parents who were endlessly proud of their only child. By the summer of 2011, Lauren had everything to look forward to. She had just graduated from Wayland High School and was weeks away from leaving for college at Elon University in North Carolina. It was the kind of exciting transition so many young people dream of. A chance to start fresh, to meet new people, to figure out who you really are. Lauren was ready. She was excited. The future stretched out before her like an open road. But there was one part of her past that seemed harder to leave behind. Nathaniel Fujita. Nathaniel was, in many ways, Lauren's opposite. Tall, athletic, and handsome, he was the quintessential golden boy of Wayland High School, a star football player with an easy smile and quiet confidence. He was the guy everyone wanted to be friends with, the guy everyone rooted for on the field. And for 3 years, he and Lauren were that couple, the couple everyone admired, the bubbly, talented performer and the quiet, popular athlete. On the surface, they looked perfect together. But beneath that polished exterior, cracks had been forming. Lauren's friends saw it long before anyone else. She loved Nathaniel, but their relationship was far from steady. They were on again, off again, breaking up, getting back together over and over again. One week, Lauren would be thrilled. "He's so fun. He's so cute," she would gush to her friends. The next week, she would be frustrated. "He's boring. He's always on his phone. I'm so over it." It was the kind of emotional whiplash that so many young relationships go through, intense and passionate, but ultimately unsustainable. On April 1st, 2011, her 18th birthday, Lauren made a decision. It was time to end things for good. She was ready to move forward, to embrace the future waiting for her. Nathaniel, however, was not. Friends noticed a change in him almost immediately. Nathaniel stopped hanging out with his friends. He stopped talking about college, about football, about the future. Instead, he withdrew. He spent more and more time alone. His family noticed it too. His mother, deeply concerned, took him to see a psychiatrist. She knew her son was struggling, but she couldn't have imagined the darkness that was taking root inside him. You're watching True Crime Stories 24/7. Thanks for joining. Please do well to subscribe and like this video to support us. In June, Lauren and her friends threw a graduation party to celebrate the end of high school and the beginning of a new chapter. Over 150 students gathered under a giant white tent in someone's backyard, laughing, dancing, and dreaming about what was to come. Nathaniel was there too. Witnesses said he spent the evening watching Lauren. He had been drinking, and as the night wore on, his jealousy bubbled to the surface. When he saw Lauren talking to other boys, he became enraged. He tried to get her to talk to him, to pay attention to him. Lauren refused. She was done. But Nathaniel couldn't let it go. At one point, he punched one of the tent poles so hard that the entire structure nearly collapsed. Friends rushed to keep it from falling, and Nathaniel was told to leave the party. Lauren was shaken. She told her mother later that night, "He wouldn't leave me alone. He was harassing me." That night was a warning sign, a glimpse of something dangerous brewing inside Nathaniel. But no one could have imagined what would come next. In the days that followed, Nathaniel grew darker. His mother, desperate to help her son, made a fateful decision. She visited Lauren at the clothing boutique where she worked and asked her to talk to Nathaniel. She hoped Lauren could cheer him up and help him find closure. Lauren, ever kind and compassionate, agreed. On July 3, 2011, Lauren worked a full shift at the mall. Surveillance cameras caught her walking through the doors, her phone to her ear. She was talking to Nathaniel. She never told anyone where she was going that evening. Maybe she didn't think it was a big deal. Maybe she believed Nathaniel just needed a friend. At 7:05 p.m., Lauren texted him one word: "Here." Nathaniel lured Lauren into the garage of his family's home. And there, in that quiet, empty house, his rage finally exploded. He strangled Lauren with a bungee cord. He slit her throat. It was brutal, unthinkable. Afterward, he cleaned up. He wiped away blood. He drove Lauren's red Jeep to Town Beach, leaving her purse and laptop inside as though she had simply vanished. He threw her keys into a storm drain. Then he returned home, put Lauren's body in his car, and drove to a secluded marsh. There, under the cover of darkness, he dumped her lifeless body into the water. When Lauren failed to come home that night, her father knew something was wrong. Malcolm Astley called the police, and within hours the search for Lauren began. It didn't take long for her red Jeep to be found at the beach. Her belongings were untouched, but there was no sign of Lauren. Malcolm rushed to the scene. Desperate, he ran to the water calling his daughter's name, hoping, praying, that she would somehow appear. But she didn't. Early the next morning, a cyclist riding near a marsh made a gruesome discovery. Lauren's body was found submerged in the water. A bungee cord was tangled in her hair. Her throat had been cut. Police turned their attention to Nathaniel Fujita. A search of his home revealed bloodstains in the garage, bungee cords that matched the one found on Lauren, and a gym bag filled with muddy shoes. Hidden in a crawl space above his bedroom, they found wet, bloody clothing. The evidence was undeniable. Nathaniel Fujita was arrested and charged with Lauren's murder. At trial, Nathaniel's defense argued that he was suffering from a psychotic episode, a result of severe depression, head injuries from football, and a family history of mental illness. But the prosecution told a different story. Nathaniel wasn't psychotic. He was angry. He was jealous. He couldn't accept that Lauren had moved on, and so he killed her. The jury agreed. Nathaniel Fujita was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Lauren Astley's life was over, but her parents refused to let her story end there. They created the Lauren Dunn Astley Memorial Fund, dedicated to raising awareness about breakup violence and educating young people about healthy relationships. Lauren's father, Malcolm, has traveled across the country, sharing his daughter's story as a cautionary tale. He speaks to teenagers about the importance of recognizing warning signs and handling breakups safely. Lauren Astley's light was extinguished far too soon. But through her parents' work and her enduring legacy, that light continues to shine. It was the kind of crime that no one saw coming. In Wayland, Massachusetts, a town where the worst things to worry about were late homework or college acceptance letters, the murder of 18-year-old Lauren Astley felt like a seismic shock. The evidence against Nathaniel Fujita was overwhelming. The blood in the garage, the muddy shoes, the bungee cord, the crawl space above his bedroom where wet, bloody clothes had been hidden like some desperate, terrible secret. Every piece of evidence told a story, one of rage, calculation, and tragedy. It didn't matter how hard the defense tried to claim Nathaniel had experienced a psychotic break. It didn't matter how they argued about depression, family mental health history, or football injuries. The prosecution stood firm. This was not a moment of temporary insanity. This was murder, deliberate and cruel. The trial itself was emotional, packed with moments that sent chills through the courtroom. Witnesses spoke about the intense relationship between Lauren and Nathaniel, the way it could swing from loving to toxic. Lauren's friends recounted the graduation party, Nathaniel's fury, and the way Lauren had pushed him away. Detectives laid out the gruesome trail of evidence. The prosecution painted a clear picture of what happened in that garage, and afterward, when Nathaniel tried and failed to erase the crime. One of the most harrowing moments came when the medical examiner testified. Lauren's final moments were revealed in painful detail. The courtroom sat in complete silence as they learned how she fought back. Defense wounds etched into her skin, evidence of a girl who refused to give up, even in her last breaths. Lauren's parents sat through it all, carrying the unimaginable weight of hearing what had been done to their daughter. Her father, Malcolm Astley, sat stoically, his heartbreak barely concealed. Her mother, Mary Dunn, wiped tears away as she listened, grief etched across her face. The world had been robbed of their daughter, and they would never stop feeling that loss. And then came the verdict. After just one day of deliberation, the jury returned. The room was silent as the foreman read the words that sealed Nathaniel Fujita's fate. Guilty. Guilty of first-degree murder. Nathaniel, who had spent the trial mostly expressionless, hung his head. His family, sitting behind him, absorbed the weight of that word. Guilty. For the Astleys, it was a measure of justice. Necessary, but far from healing. Malcolm Astley did something that stunned everyone in the room. He stood, walked across the courtroom, and embraced Nathaniel's parents. In a moment of extraordinary grace, he recognized their pain too. 2 families were destroyed. 2 families grieving. Lauren's mother, Mary, delivered a heartbreaking victim impact statement before the sentencing. Her voice trembled as she spoke about losing her only child, the laughter, the music, the future celebrations that would never come. "Never again will I be called mom, mommy, or mother," she said. "The image of her last excruciating minutes on earth will not leave my brain ever." Nathaniel Fujita was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In Massachusetts, that is the mandatory sentence for first-degree murder. But for the Astleys, justice was only the beginning. Lauren's death had opened their eyes to something that isn't talked about nearly enough: breakup violence. It's the kind of violence that happens when someone refuses to accept rejection. It happens when love twists into obsession, into control, into something dark and dangerous. Malcolm and Mary refused to let their daughter's death be in vain. They created the Lauren Dunn Astley Memorial Fund, an organization dedicated to educating young people about healthy relationships and the warning signs of violence. Through speeches, workshops, and programs in schools, they began spreading a vital message. Breakups happen, but violence doesn't have to. Malcolm in particular took Lauren's story across the country. He spoke to teenagers about love, rejection, and the importance of understanding that no means no. He taught parents and educators to look for red flags, possessiveness, jealousy, and controlling behavior. He spoke about preparing young people for the reality of breakups, for the pain that comes with them, and for the healthy ways to handle it. Lauren's story is heartbreaking, but it's also a call to action. She didn't have to die. If Nathaniel had gotten the right help, if someone had stepped in sooner, if more people understood the dangers of breakup violence, maybe, just maybe, Lauren would still be here, and so her parents carry on her legacy. Lauren was a singer, a performer, and a giver. And through their work, her voice continues to echo. Her story reminds us of the importance of education, compassion, and awareness. It reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we can choose to act with grace. Malcolm Astley's embrace of Nathaniel's parents proved that. In a moment when most people would be consumed with anger, he offered forgiveness. He reminded us that hate doesn't have to win. Lauren Astley's life was cut short at 18 years old. But her story lives on, not just as a cautionary tale, but as a beacon of hope and change. If you take anything away from this, let it be this: no breakup is worth a life. Recognize the warning signs, educate yourself and the people you love. And if you're ever in a situation where you feel unsafe, don't do it alone. Lauren Astley didn't get to live out her dreams, but because of her parents' work, countless others might get the chance to live theirs. Thank you for joining us today on True Crime Stories 24/7. If you found Lauren's story as important and impactful as we did, please consider sharing it with others. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss a story that needs to be told. Together, we can keep shining a light on these tragedies, honoring the victims, and spreading awareness to prevent them from happening again. This is True Crime Stories 24/7. Stay safe, stay aware, and take care of each other. God bless you. Until next time.